there, welcome back. I've been away for a couple of weeks on holiday. I'm glad to be back here making new videos. And today's lesson, we're going to talk more about the career line. And that is part 4 already. So if you haven't seen my other ones, go back and have a look. There's lots of information there. I've got 2 presentations about the starting points and the ending points. And the 3rd video is about what career suits what hand shape. So that's also very interesting. But today we're going to take it up another notch and we're going to go into more detail about types of career line and marks on the career line and just variations. So a little bit more detail. I'm sure you'll be interested in that, especially if you are learning to read hands or whether you're just looking at your own hands, being curious about that. So yeah, I'll put that presentation on, and don't forget, please subscribe and visit destinypalmistry.com for more articles. Thank you very much. Right, today about the career line. If you've been listening to my previous videos, you might already know that these lines can and do change. I've been looking at my own lines for many, many years as well, watching the various changes that go on as my life changes. So if there's something that you see on your hand, it might be good or bad, either way, they can change depending on your circumstances. For instance, if a person suddenly decides to change career, it may not be evident on the hand, but gradually parts of the line can fade and new lines can form. So just be aware of that nothing is definitely fated. Even though they do also call it a fate line, that's because they can relate to other parts of your life, not just the career. But today I'm mainly going to be talking about the career in the fate line. I'll bring up a picture so I can do some drawing. Here we go. So if you are at all aware about palmistry, you most likely are. There are some new people here. I'll just quickly draw you this heart line and a headline, which is usually on a hand, and the lifeline, just to give you some reference points. So in this picture right now, there is no career line. Having no career line does not necessarily mean that there is no career and that the person can't be successful, because the career line mainly represents boundaries, goals, motivations, and it does show change in the life. So if there's none present, and I've seen it before on successful people, but the reason why they probably don't have it is because they don't plan in the long term. They might make short goals and hit those goals every time and not have any specific boundaries as to how they do it or what they do. The example that I know of was a salesman. He was a door-to-door salesman and he used to sell products from his car, and those products would change and the places he went to would change. And he wasn't strict in any way on how he earned his money. So there was, like I said before, no boundary. So don't panic if you don't have a fate line. It means that you are basically free to do whatever you want. You can make your decisions. And if you do decide to set goals and start focusing on a goal, you'll probably find you will grow yourself a career line. So that is the first part. Next, I'm going to talk about a gently curving. So often the career line starts somewhere in the middle of the palm. It might start directly from the lifeline. On my previous video, I talked about where they start from. I don't know if you can hear me. I'll just move my microphone a bit closer. Is that better? You like my new mic? Pretty cool, isn't it? Anyway, back to it. So a gently curving fate line would start from somewhere like near the Mount of Moon, and it'll just curve around towards the Mount of Saturn. What that often shows is that there is a gradual change in the career, and the career might not start as a anything strict. Sorry about my glitches. I have no idea what I'm doing. Anyway, the gently curving can sometimes be, say if it came off the headline, it can sometimes like be on a lean, so like a gently leaning line. That also shows some gradual change, and during that time there may be many career changes. It may not show as a break in the line because maybe the career changes have smooth flow, so they go from one to another. So say for instance, if that curved line was broken, or if any of the fate lines were broken, and it literally stops and then starts again, that can show a period of uncertainty, that can show potentially financial difficulties. It can show a period where the person may have actually quit working for a while and retired. For women, they may have stopped to have children, and times like that can show up as a break, a clean break. So if it's not a clean break, and if it's a like overlapping break, there the fate line, career line, might shift over to another direction. And what that means is the career is most likely shifting to another direction. And because they're overlapping, that there has been this period of planning. So from timing the headline, that timing is around about the age 35. So this person may have around 35 decided to spend the next 5 or 6 years planning a change in their career, maybe studying or doing something to improve their chances of getting a better position in their job, for instance. So that period of where it's doubled shows that it is a gradual change. So the career will eventually take a different road. And in this picture, because the line continues nice and strong, it shows that it's a good move. So a double fate line can sometimes depict the person's partner. For instance, if this person has a fate line and then they suddenly start to grow a line right very close to it, alongside it, when it's very close, that can depict the person's partner in business. That can show the partner in marriage is very supportive. It can show support, financial support. Is a very, very auspicious sign to have a double fate line. And if you saw my millionaire in hand video, I mentioned that in there also. Okay, next, I've talked about the double, the broken. Let's talk about some marks. So I have got this specific mark on my hand, not in this spot, but I went through a lot of very, very difficult financial situations many years ago, and I have an island. I tried to draw an island. An island shape is when the line splits and then forms back together, and that's nearly always a sign of financial difficulty. In my case, it's true, and it was a period of, the period depends on the size of the island. So for me, it was around about that size, like I've drawn, and that period was around about 7 or 8 years. So thankfully, with the islands, they do form back into a clean straight line, so that shows that everything comes back to normal and there's no dramas. So crossbars are very common. I see it all the time. Most of them come from stress lines, from the ball of the thumb, from the Mount Venus. People have stress and it affects their life, and it goes all the way and hits the career line, and that causes obstacles. Sometimes they're just short lines that just cross. They are obstacles that come from nowhere. Suddenly you're working and something happens. You might have to change jobs. You might have other issues that come in, but they are only temporary. I call these the ladder. I know everyone freaks out if they're struggling at work and struggling financially, and if they see this ladder, don't panic, because when someone is climbing, they have a ladder and it makes it easier to climb, so you don't have to grip the walls like Spider-Man. So you have a ladder. So if you have a ladder on your fate line, career line, yes, there will be obstacles, but without the difficulty, you would never appreciate the other side of it, which is an easy life. So these crossbars, whilst they seem to be annoying, they're a good thing. They make a person stronger, they make a person smarter, they help along in life lessons in general. Everyone has life lessons, and that ladder is just little pebbles that you gotta step over and kick out the way. So a weak line is obviously one that you can hardly see. So I see it a lot where there might be a very fine line there, might be very fine there, and it's like, it's even hard to see. Now what that normally means is the line is either coming or going. So look at both hands. Look at the dominant hand and the non-dominant hand. And if on the non-dominant hand, the line is clear, and on the dominant hand, it's fuzzy, it's showing that the person might have, once upon a time, had excellent goals, had excellent ideas, were doing the right thing, and then something has happened and they've lost their motivation, they're no longer working, and the line is fading the future. So if it's the other way around and it's on the non-dominant hand, there's a very weak line, and if it's on the dominant hand is showing a much stronger line, that's showing that the person in the past has struggled, but they have managed to resolve. They've got their goals and motivations together. And it can also show many, many changes. So a person can't decide what kind of work they want to do. They might go from being a waiter to being a bus driver to being a clerk to being a businessman, who knows. But the broken and constantly changing lines is basically describing exactly what it is. So if it is new lines growing, what will happen is they will slowly get deeper, and they might even join up, because if a person decides on a specific path, then those little links will link up and it'll form a line. So many times faded and weak lines are, in fact, new lines that are forming. So lastly, branches. This is pretty important, because many times you get lines that come up to it, rise above from it. These are all influence lines and branches. These are good signs, because rising lines show that another direction is pointing towards ambitions, pointing towards steadiness, pointing towards creativity. So depending on which direction the branches go upwards. And of course a trident here, looking at those three lines, that shows person is quite lucky with money, that they will often get money when they just think that they are desperate. Something will come along and help them. And these rising lines say, for instance, from the heart line, shows the person is passionate and emotional, and they are into what they're doing, and influences from their heart, from what they love, are coming into their career. So the love of their life is their career, and they just so passionate about it. So that is the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'm gonna call it a day. My phone is about to ring any second. It's been going crazy today. Anyway, and I look forward to doing another video for you soon. See you later. Bye.